What have you found yourself complaining about in just everyday life recently? The most resilient people, when problems arise, they go about the business of figuring out what's within their control to fix. And if it is, they go about the business of fixing it. So, this is a part of a multi part coaching series that I have been doing based on my book, Life Coaching for Successful Women. And all I'm doing is sharing some things that can help you close the gap between where you are and where you really want to be. And one of the areas where we can figure out, how am I stuck is simply by asking ourselves, what am I complaining about? Like, what do I find myself complaining about, talking about, perhaps even tolerating? When I first started coaching, and this year is my 20th anniversary as a coach, there was a concept that I loved, and the concept was just around something called tolerations, things that we just put up with. And sometimes when we tolerate a lot of things, we find ourselves talking about them, murmuring about them, complaining about them, and not necessarily doing something about it. So here's what I'd like to ask you to do. I want you to coach yourself with this very simple process, all right? So, number one, make a list of your top 10 complaints. What are the things you found yourself complaining about? Whether it's something that needs to be fixed, maybe it's a drippy sink, maybe it's the fact that your oil light keeps coming on in your car, maybe it's a situation, a dynamic in a relationship. Maybe it's a process that's happening or not happening at work and it's making things more frustrating and more difficult. Maybe it's something going on with your kids. It's a boundary that hasn't been set, but you just keep complaining, but you haven't necessarily done something about it. Write down all of those complaints, okay? These are the things that are not going the way you'd like to see them go. All right, number two, make a list of 10 requests. All right, so what requests could you make to address each complaint? This is about being proactive and coaching yourself with a really simple question and taking a moment to really think about how you might be able to fix or alleviate or at least minimize the problem. And then number three, follow through with the requests and solve the problem. We don't have to keep going the way we've always been going, but if we want to change things, we do have to do things a bit differently. Coaching is about stopping, reflecting, noticing when we have a challenge in front of us, and then going about the business of deciding, how can I conquer this challenge? What could I do differently? How could I tweak things to make them better? If you've ever considered coaching, or even if you haven't, I suggest you consider it. It is a really powerful skill. It's a skill for resilience, it's a skill for leadership, and for millions, they have benefited from having a coach. So it's a great skill if you have ever considered changing professions or enhancing the one that you're already in. Just check out the Coach Training Intensive. We have a live virtual one coming up here at the CAP Institute, and we would love to see you there. But until then, make that list, 10 complaints, 10 requests, and then follow through.